Yeah, it's been.
Welcome to Miss Rocki and Chaveevah Live, because there's always something good happening on the North End
and everywhere else in the Cedar Valley.
Yes. And you know this, Tavis?
Absolutely.
And you know this, Pat?
Yes.
Yes. We got some great guests today, Chaveevah.
Yes, we absolutely do. We've got Pat Morrissey from the City Council, and we also have Tavis. Oh, Lord have mercy. Why am I having a brain fart?
Tavis Hall.
Thank you.
Waterloo. Yeah, because I just threw it at you. We've been winging it for a while, waiting for Tavis.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Welcome, both of you.
All right. It's good to be here.
Yes. And so we're having a little, there it went back on. So, yeah, we want to have we have an announcement. You know all about Waterloo, so we won't be telling him anything, but we're going to let everyone else know about what's happening, Chaveevah. We got the Sweet Corn Day at the Urban Farmers Market.
Yes. It's going to be, it's a fundraiser for the market because, like everyone else, you know, the Urban Farmers Market has taken a little bit of a hit, so they're doing a fundraiser, and they're going to be selling sweet corn. There's going to be ribs, all kinds of good food and stuff like that, pie. And we want to shout out Billy and Lily Jones for providing the corn and a lot of the other food that's going to be sold at the fundraiser. So we're going to mention it again, too, next Friday. But by all means, go out to Riverloop Expo Plaza to the Farmers Market, the Urban Farmers Market, and get some stuff.
Okay, and
go every Friday. Go every Saturday. Yes.
August 15th, and make sure you get there because that's going to be great. Sweet corn sounds so good right now. Mm-hmm. Yes, and Chaveevah, did you guys hear about Chaveevah is painting a piano? You've heard about that project?
You did hear. Oh, wow.
Yes,
no
Chaveevah.
Secrets in the city, huh?
Right. Talk about that. What are you doing?
It is just so fun. It is a great project, and a few other artists have worked on pianos where it's a workable piano, and they have designs, they're painted, so it's a piece of art that you can make music with, basically. And I just started working on mine a few days ago. There are some that are already done. I don't know how soon any of them will be debuted in different locations, but they are just beautiful, and I'm looking forward to finishing mine.
I'm excited to hear Pat.
Oh, yes.
Pat plays?
Oh,
seriously? You play the piano?
I do not.
He doesn't. No.
Well, I know.
Bagpipes. I play bagpipes.
Yes.
Right, and you look so good in your kilt, too. That's what's great about it, you know. Some people don't look so great, but you look real authentic, and you can play them bagpipes. Yeah. So how about you play the bagpipes right beside the piano? You put on that outfit you had on in the video. Wow, it's going to be great. Downtown Waterloo is going to be popping real soon. So everybody get out and see those pianos that are going to be at different businesses, right, Chaveevah? How many are there?
Oh, man. When I went to check the space where I was working, I saw about five. And then some people have the luxury of working on them at their house, like the center dropped it off at their home and is going to pick it back up finished. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we got a quick give it air. I don't know, this is a part of our segment that we talk about American history, and we kind of capitalize on African American history. This is really more of American thing because some people say that racism is such a part of our American culture that it seems un-American to even protest it. Now, let that sink in. So this is a practice. We warned Pat, this is kind of graphic and it's no fun to talk about, but the word picnic, are you familiar with? No. Let me tell you what happened to me. I was talking to a group of third graders, and I was talking about my book, Ropes in the Kitchen. and about some of the practices of American history. And I had no clue about picnic either. Well, this young man said, "Have you ever looked up the word picnic?" And I said, "No." And he sat there with his little third grade self and said, it used to stand for pick a N-word. And they would have an outing and they'd have a lynching for a family event. And they would take portions of the enslaved person that was lynched home for souvenirs. So without being too objective and talking about it with too much heart, we had to get that out there and give it air. So research the word. We're not talking about the beginning or the origin of the word. We're talking just about the practice that used to take place. So this is how, as Pat said, barbaric the history of America is. So, Chaveevah, we gave that some air.
Because air, sometimes giving it some air is the best disinfectant. Just get it out there and then we can move on. But what our problem has been too often, unfortunately, is hiding these things.
Right. Okay, now switching gears.
Yes.
Who wants to talk about that too long? We want to remind everyone we are being safe right here at City Hall. We want to invite you to do the same thing. We are socially distant. Everybody has a mask these days in pocket.
And we also want to do a brief news flash to remind our birthday people that you will get your birthday shout out and hear a wonderful birthday song near the end of the show. So be sure to stick with us, okay?
Right, you should have brought your bagpipes. Oh, we know Tavis can sing, right?
Yeah.
We had a great show last week, Chaveevah.
Oh, yes, we did. Nia Shindig was our guest
Did you
last
watch?
week.
I did.
And she came in just full of energy.
Always.
Yes.
Always.
Right, she came in. No, she was really like way at the top last week because she met Jane Elliott.
Yeah.
And she had a nice video with Jane outside City Hall. So
Yep.
our people called
that's
Jane.
her.
Yes,
Yeah.
there she is
Very
with
cool.
Miss Jane Elliott. So our people actually called her people. And we got a surprise announcement at the end of our show today that will be like way exciting. So you'll want to stay tuned to watch us tomorrow for sure. All right. So Tavis, what do you know about the census?
It's incredibly important, right? It is the mechanism that folks are counted, and unless we're counted, we can't be heard. And so it ensures representation both at the state level and at the national level. It ensures dollars come into our community. Those dollars provide services, and it improves folks' lives. So we need everybody to make sure they go to 2020census.gov and make sure they fill out, make sure that they're counted so they can ultimately be heard.
Perfect. We have until October 1st. At least that's what a little birdie told us like a couple of weeks ago.
Right. So you'll be hearing us hang out and talking about the census for a little bit longer. For representation, education, healthcare, housing, infrastructure needs. And it's not too late. Just like Tavis said, go there today. All right. We want to ask you guys our question of the week. And Chaveevah, you have some comments that our viewers said, right?
Oh, that's right. Yes.
So yeah, Tavis,
yes.
our question of the week is, how did your family, either side, your whole family,
Yeah.
end up here in Waterloo? How did you end up living here?
Like a lot of folks, railroad, right?
Railroad.
Yep. And so came up from Mississippi on my father's side. On my mom's side, they were actually my grandmother's parents were born just north of here. So yeah, it's sort of a long history in the area, but it's always incredible to hear some of the stories from folks. We don't always think about it, but we have folks who are just coming here and experiencing Waterloo for the first time. Sometimes learning an entire language and a culture while also learning in a new community. So our Burmese friends, certainly our Bosnian friends who've enriched us over the last decade, 2 decades. Congolese, there's so many that are recent residents, and we're excited to have them.
How long ago on the railroad? Do you know what year your family came here? That's something
I
you
do
need
not.
to know.
Would have been,
30s?
yeah,
Something like that?
maybe 40s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Pat, how about you? Your family, how did you end up living here in Waterloo?
My mom and dad, my mom is full-blooded Norwegian. My daddy is, well, they're both deceased, but he's Irish, French. And my dad's grandparents came over from Ireland in the famine and over in Ireland. And my mom's grandparents came over from Norway. And my mom and dad lived in Forest City, Iowa, and they ended up hitching up. My mom being a teacher, my dad being a factory worker, and they came down here in the 1940s, into Waterloo. And my mom basically didn't teach at all because it was my dad believed that the man should be the breadwinner in the family. So that
The old
kind
school.
of, yes, that kind of mentality. So 1940s were when my family that I grew up with came to Waterloo.
Oh, great. I love the fact that he's in touch with his culture and ethnicity, you know, and you still play the bagpipes. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Chaveevah, your family lived here.
Yep, I sort of made the leap here from Chicago. Chicago, now I'm sure, most definitely, and at the time when my kids were growing up, was not a place to raise children. And I wanted to get them out of there. I was divorced, single, whatever, trying to do the best I could by my kids. I moved them here, and I was fortunate to have a cousin that had moved here like maybe a few years before, because I was going to move to Iowa City. And she was like, no, you got family here. You may as well come here. So I did, and that was 1986.
Okay.
So.
And Waterloo's been a better place ever since.
That's right.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, my family came here on the railroad from Mississippi looking for a better life in 1906.
Okay.
So we've been here on the 6th generation, right here on the north end of Waterloo. So that's why I'm so pro North End. We got to do so much better and so much more to make Waterloo what it should be. Okay, so we want to ask there were a few people that answered that question too, Chaveevah. We have Lori Morse Lindeman that
Yes,
said
Lori Morse Lindeman said that her father left the Pine Ridge Reservation.
Oh.
And yeah,
Look
got a
at
job
Agnes.
at Deere, and the rest is history. Okay.
Right.
Okay, there
And you
it
had
is.
other ones?
Yeah.
On your page, did
Kate
you-
Stainbrook. She said her great grandmother,
Yes.
Bessie Howlett, came from, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it, Shuqualak, Mississippi,
Shuqualak.
by
Okay.
railroad. And,
Right.
that's a picture of her on the screen of her and her best friend.
Right, her grandmother and her best friend.
Yeah.
And that's so many white people that have African roots that actually come out in the past. Now that there's ancestry and everything, like our friend Michael Moore, who had some great insight on his family that had been hidden, where now it seems to be, it was always to him okay to have all that exposed, but to previous generations, they weren't so proud and they kind of hid a lot of
Hid
that.
it like, oops.
Yeah, so thank you, Kate, and everyone else that answered that question on our page. That was kind of interesting to find out how everybody got started here. All right, we want to shout out to Sherman Wise and Billy Bailey because they bought us Sherman bought our first tripod and Billy just donated money and bought us another tripod.
Very
And
cool.
thank you for all of you that support us on North End Update. We really appreciate your help and support and encouragement. All right, follow us on YouTube, Chaveevah.
Yes, indeed. On YouTube, watch us on WCTV, channel 17, or channel 79-4, depending on how your TV is set up. That's on Fridays at 4, Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Yeah, give us show ideas if you have any. We would love to entertain that, and you can catch us at North End Update, all one word,
Yes.
at gmail.com.
Right. We're looking forward to hearing from you. Now, there has been a lot of talk, and it's been in and out and in and out for years and years about this logo, this patch in the Waterloo Police Department. Now, I'm going to start with you, Tavis. Some may call it a griffin. Some may call it a dragon, and by mistake, according to our police chief, because he says it is a griffin and it's on Harry Potter or something, I think. So those are some of the comparisons. I've seen you in recent comments saying it doesn't matter what you call it.
That's right. That's right.
Talk about that.
I think that for far too long, black voices have been ignored in this city. When NAACP went to previous to Chief Fitzgerald's predecessors, with concerns about the logo, it fell on deaf ears. They refused to listen. They refused to address. And so, the chief's first day on the job was at a Black Lives Matter protest. At a march, right?
Yes.
Tough day.
And we had officers there kneeling in solidarity with those at the march. So we can't have it both ways. We can't say that Black Lives Matters and Black opinions don't. And unfortunately, by refusing to acknowledge the concerns, the perceptions of that logo on African Americans who've been in this community for generations, to refuse to acknowledge the impacts that has, we really ultimately are refusing to acknowledge value in black thoughts, black feelings, black emotions. And so, regardless of whether it is a griffin or a dragon, I tend to believe that most things that were instituted in police departments in 1964 across the country, typically those were not done with the best of intentions, with the purest of intentions, right? They typically had underlying racial elements. So it's probably time that after 56 years, right? Frankly, if Mississippi can change their flag, we can absolutely change a patch to make sure that that logo that pulls up to investigate something that went wrong in someone's life, that it is not a barrier from that instant that they pull up. And by refusing to acknowledge the concerns, by insisting that someone is simply wrong, as opposed to hearing their concerns and saying, how can I serve you better? Because let's be honest, that is what police officers and public servants are. Is they are servants of the public. Black folks in this community pay taxes. We are employers, in effect. And so to have this very vehement clinging to this patch, which so closely resembles the patch of the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan.
Yes.
Whether it is in fact identical or not, the fact that it has been called for decades to be removed, and it still has not been done, is therefore disrespectful. And so I actually hope that city council members take this issue up, that we don't simply rely on a brand new police chief.
That's right.
Who
That's
has
the next
so much
question.
weight to bear here. I think that elected officials have an amazing opportunity, not just here. There are, African Americans make up 9% of Black Hawk County and 51% of the imprisoned population in this community.
Talk about that.
So there are real issues here. But this logo, if we can't change a logo, we certainly can't really change policy. Or we aren't serious about doing it. And I know that there are members of City Council who are serious about changing some of these things. So I think City Council taking action, decisive action. This is, I'll admit, this is a space that that a tourism director doesn't typically play in.
Right, but your voice is really important in the community. You
And
know,
and John, we just lost John Lewis.
yes.
Right, and he said it was time to get in trouble.
Right,
It was
good
good trouble,
That's
and it was
right.
necessary trouble.
That's right. Pat.
And to Dr. King's point, I shared this with Pat and other members of council. The last sermon that Dr. King gave, he spoke about that the time was always right to do what is right.
That's right.
And it is certainly right to make sure that black folks feel as if the police department works for them just as they work for anyone else in this city. And so having a basic level of respect for black citizens, I think is, and the changing of this patch is certainly a first step in proving that there is an equal amount of respect for all.
Yes,
Hear,
indeed.
hear.
And Pat, why is it not enough to add an additional patch? And that's the other thing that's been talked about. We'll keep this patch for those officers that have died under the patch. Talk to that point. Why do you not want to add another patch?
Well, okay, to me, it would be analogous to saying that we should put up a Union statue of Ulysses S. Grant next to a Confederate, like that Forrest guy that started the Ku Klux Klan. Why don't we just put one next to there? If we have 15 to 20% of our own community that is saying they object to this and they want it removed, then it needs to be removed, period. And I'm a Johnny-come-lately to this. The whole idea of the Griffin never got brought to my attention until 2016, and I looked it up. And the thing that disturbs me about that, other than the most important thing being the effect that it has and what it symbolizes or is seen to symbolize or closely associate with white supremacy and white privilege and the Ku Klux Klan and all that the barbarism and the savagery that's been showed to a sector of our human population, that's that part of it that means that it's just got to be changed. It's got to go. If people talk about tradition with the patch, well, the patch prior to 1964, 65 was a triangle that said Waterloo Police Department. I believe that the police department, as Tavis has said, they're public servants. All of us are public servants, basically, if we're working for what's considered the government, which the government is all of us. It's the people that are out there that are choosing to work within a city that has a government. There are the people that are elected. There are the people that are taking jobs to do the services that the government provides. So our government needs to be responsive to everybody. And if somebody within that government, within that population is saying that this is bad, this is ugly, this connotes a form of violence against a certain group of people, then that needs to be looked at seriously and it needs to be taken care of. 2 patches doesn't get it. 1 patch does, but that patch, just as it changed in the 60s, can change now. If you want to go back to tradition, get the triangle and put Waterloo Police Department in it. Quite frankly, though, and I think I mentioned this to you, Rocki, I would like to see, I believe that law enforcement, they're peace officers.
Right.
And if we had the Waterloo Peace Patrol, with a couple turtle doves
There
inside
you
there.
go.
That'll be just fine by me.
Or
It would
daisies.
I mean,
And have a tactical team that goes after, if it's a violent crime, they get called
Right,
to a
yes.
shooting, then maybe get the whatever, I won't say riot gear, but get the heavy duty stuff out.
right.
Minus
Yes.
the military weapons, but,
Yes.
you know, and then maybe Chaveevah maybe send in counselors or, you know, appropriately.
Right.
I mean, I don't know.
With some people's call to quote unquote defund the police,
Yes.
that's been, I think, misconstrued quite badly as far as what the intent behind that is. What that really means is that police force is not what's needed every
Exactly.
time that phone gets picked up for somebody to call. Sometimes what's needed is a counselor. Sometimes what's needed is some other kind of social service situation that's going on. And the rap that the Waterloo Police Department or nationwide, as far as their interaction with African American community and other communities of color, it's if you really have strong intent to turn that around, then from
Yes.
the smallest thing, which some people call this small, I don't, but from the smallest thing to larger things that have to do with policy. If you're unwilling, as you said, Tavis, to bend for this, then, you know, that doesn't speak well to whether or not you're going to make changes higher up. And, you know,
Right.
Pat, you and I were talking earlier before the camera started rolling, and just that whole idea of knowing about this, the Griffin and stuff like that, I admit it flew under my radar for some years, but it seemed like it was something that would keep coming up. So apparently, this is an idea whose time has come.
Could I
Take
add
that
something?
first step.
Right. And I just wanted to add that the griffin, the symbol, and there are other parts of this that are equally important, and some may even say more important. And there's some of us on council who believe and have put together and are working on, and hopefully within the next month, are going to be bringing forward things, including a resolution on the Griffin and a statement that it needs to be replaced. Not side by side. A Confederate statue and a Union statue don't go. The
Side by
Confederate flag is a symbol of treason. The Union prevailed and won. You don't have those side by side. That just seems incongruous. You don't have something, and as I was trying to say earlier, the Griffin, for whatever reasons got it started, it's a green-eyed monster that's got claws that looks like it's out to get
To
somebody.
get somebody.
And that's not what I want from a public servant. If, as you said, we have a violent crime
Yeah.
team, that's one thing, have specialized teams. But for the most part, I want my grandkids, not my kids anymore, they're too old, but my grandkids, I want them to see peace officers there to maintain and to restore peace in our neighborhoods, community policing with peace officers.
Right. And who is to make this decision now that it's all out in the open? I know we talked to Chief Fitzgerald, and I mean, we had him on the show, and I think he's doing some consideration. But ultimately, who's going to make this decision? Has it been decided who's going to make the call?
Certainly, I think the chief has the ability to, but I also think that council has the ability to.
Okay.
And I would even argue council has a responsibility to.
Right.
Because
That's
they are
kinda
elected
how I feel.
officials.
Right.
And they do answer most directly to the citizens. And so I think that there's, to the earlier question of thoughts of a second patch, second drinking fountains didn't work.
Hello.
Second bathrooms didn't work. Second schools didn't work. And the definition of secondary is less than primary. It is by definition less important than
There
the
you go.
primary.
Say
So
that, Tavis.
if we're going to, if there's no reason for half measures here, there should be no half measures aren't steps that you take in an effort to achieve equity and justice.
That's
You
right.
can't take half measures there. So we can do it, but we do need folks to reach out to their elected officials
Yes.
to make sure that folks' voice are heard, that the time has come for this symbol, whatever its orientations, recognizing that its perceptions result in disrespect towards
Yes.
African Americans in this community, and that will no longer stand.
Right.
And we need elected officials to take that stand on our behalf.
That's right. It was said that from a grandchild of an officer on our wall, he wrote that symbol was called the green-eyed inward eater. And that was, from direct down the line. So,
Yeah.
I mean, people that know what goes on. I mean, a lot of people know how people talk, white people sometimes talk about black people. And it's just, it's a common knowledge. So let's make sure that those things don't continue in society and that we kind of get rid of some of this systemic. So our grandchildren can live in a world that's much better.
And if I could just add, I'm proud to have signed on to a letter with Representative Roz Smith, with Reverend Belinda Creighton Smith, with LaTanya Graves from the NAACP, with Ryan Stevenson, with my father, David Goodson, on 5 points that we believe can help, not just the patch. Like I said, 9% of the population in Blackhawk County is African American,
Yeah.
and 51%, 1 in 2 people in jail are black.
Wow.
Let it sink in.
Change
There
gonna
is
come.
there
It's got
there
to.
has to be systemic change
Yes.
Yes.
to address systemic racism.
Yes.
And so things like codifying interdepartmental rules and duty to intervene,
Sure.
which is a part of I believe it's 8 Can't Wait. The
was
set of
talking.
policies, right? Those are important, but they have to be codified. It cannot just be a policy within the department. It needs to be a policy of the city. We should be having a citizens review board that's not just there to rubber stamp things, but when incidents happen, they should have immediate access to the body cameras. They should have immediate access to review some of these things. We have got to get to holistic policing, which I think, to your point, when folks hear defund the police, what that conversation is actually about is breaking down the current paradigm of policing in this country, and instead building up something closer to what Pat's talking about, is peace officers, right? That aren't there to enforce law, but are there to protect and serve, as police officers they were originally intended.
Yes.
And that includes, making sure that we study the creation of precincts as opposed to a singular point where an officer checks in and checks out. I know that the chief is looking at how to integrate police officers into communities in a more meaningful way, which is fantastic.
That is
and
great
deserves applause, because that's long overdue.
Long overdue.
But there were 5 points that we published in this guest editorial to the Courier, and I really encourage folks to go back, find that guest editorial, and encourage their elected members of council to strongly consider. And I think we're going to be able to have some conversations publicly with those elected officials where folks can have some input. It's a little difficult in the days of COVID.
Yes, it is
but,
hard, but-
we will certainly do what we can to facilitate a public conversation so that folks are accountable, so that folks have their voices heard, and that elected officials can really hear from people about how these policies impact their lives.
And
That's
I know we
something to-
have some comments, and I know our time is way short.
Yeah.
But Ed, can you just maybe read a couple comments so we can know what our viewers are saying? You don't want to be on camera, Ed? Okay, we'll have to go over your comments later. It was a great conversation, and we're so glad that, Tavis, you speak up, because it's not normally your job.
Yeah.
But I think from your bloodline, you didn't have a choice,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
because
Well,
you have
look,
an aunt, and it's just in your DNA to
There's
make sure
100
things are done.
There's
right?
124,000 black people that call Iowa home.
That's
10,000 of us here, but there's 114 other 1,000 black folks that are here in the state of Iowa, And Waterloo is the black capital of the state. We're the epicenter
Yes,
of black
yes.
life.
Right,
And so
that's
we
the
have
truth.
to step up to the plate when the time calls.
That's right, Waterloo proud. And Pat Morrissey, you are a real true warrior as well. And thank you so much for speaking up and standing on what you believe.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate this. It's been fun.
All
You're
right,
very
yes.
welcome.
Enlightening as well.
Yes, yes. All right, Chaveevah, we had some great news to announce. We're going to, where are we going, Chaveevah? Cresco? What's the name of that town? Osage.
Yes.
Osage to visit Miss Jane Elliott.
Very
and we
cool.
get an interview with her
That's awesome.
tomorrow. So make sure you watch tomorrow for our road trip tomorrow. We're going to sing happy birthday. We got some birthday people, and we heard you love to sing. So we got Colette Jackson Fink, Obadiah Bulls, William Burt, the barber, Sherman Wise, Jerome Amos Jr. Yes, he wants a
no.
patch. He wants the turtle doves too, or just a plain patch. He told us. Seven Carter, which is Robbie.
That is my
and
youngest grandson.
Peace's son.
A
Go
year
ahead,
old.
Chaveevah.
Yep, and we've got Celeste Bembry. Happy birthday to you and your twin, which I just found out on
Yes.
Facebook. She's got a twin brother. Happy birthday to Daquan Campbell, Lori Wild, Felicia, Rochelle Carter, Uche Omoni, my good friend from Chicago. Happy birthday, Uche. Abby Turpin, Theron Montgomery, Dorothy Huffman, Lisa Bradford, and Edward Madlock. Happy
We
birthday.
didn't
that's
forget you, birthday
That's some
people.
that's some powerhouse birthdays.
I
Right
know,
there.
I
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and they're all Leos like my daddy, whose birthday would have been Monday, and he'd have been 2 years older than Anna Mae, and I can't tell you how old that is. All right, so we're gonna sing Happy Birthday, and we sing the Stevie Wonder version. You know that one.
No.
You didn't bring your bagpipes, and you don't know the song.
No, I
oh,
don't.
no. Okay. Well, you follow
It's
along.
easy to follow.
And
Okay.
it goes something like this. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday, happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday. All right.
And many more may you have.
All right. That's the kind
Awesome.
of show we like. We had some
Yes.
tough topics today and some kind of crazy stuff that happens in this world, but you guys made it all really nice and informative.
Well,
Thank
I hope that the city council, within the next month, no more than a month, hopefully by the end of September, has accomplished many things. So,
And you'll come back and we'll celebrate. And then you'll drink wine because you won't be on the ladder.
I don't know. I can't guarantee that.
Okay. Well, until next time, we're counting on you guys to keep doing more of what makes you awesome.
Because
Sancha.
it makes us all look good.
Yes, and Sancha, whatever
Sancha.
that means. Okay.
All right.